Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're going to meticulously dissect a really fascinating piece of curriculum design. We're looking at a specific learning module called Explosive into Anger. Now, the source text we're analyzing today is kind of brief, but let me tell you, it is incredibly dense with meaning. We're going to unpack the exact anatomy of this module in detail, looking at how it takes someone from a state of raw, volatile reaction all the way to structured psychological understanding. So grab your mental notepads, because we're about to break down exactly how this curriculum is built to literally transform emotional chaos right into clarity.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right out of the gate, the text hits us with this highly evocative, honestly slightly jarring phrase. Participants will look at the impact of explosives on anger. I mean, wow, this isn't just about feeling a little frustrated, you know? The use of the word explosives here is totally deliberate and intense. It paints this visceral picture of a sudden, violent catalyst. We're talking about those rapid-fire triggers that detonate within us, turning a normal baseline emotional state into a massive, uncontrolled reaction. The module starts right at the point of detonation, looking closely at the sheer force of that impact.
And this brilliantly illustrates a participant's chronological journey through the entire module. The text lays out a really specific, brisk three-step pathway. Step 1 is visceral. Look at the explosive impact. Step 2 shifts into the intellect. Learn the underlying psychology. And finally, Step 3 is the resolution. Synthesize that knowledge to create a stronger sense of awareness. It's a highly structured roadmap, moving the learner straight from the heat of the moment into a state of mindful control.
All right, diving straight into the chaos with Section 1, the impact.
When an emotional explosion happens, it's fast, it's disorienting, and it's super chaotic. Let's just pause for a second and really think about those three words from the module's title, explosive into anger. That signifies a sudden, massive shift in state. You aren't just angry, you're thrust into anger by an explosive force. The curriculum is forcing participants to sit with the gravity of that sudden transition. It's asking them to examine the wreckage immediately following the blast. What does it actually look and feel like to cross that threshold so violently?
Stepping out of the wreckage, we pivot to Section 2, the psychology.
Which brings us to the core question the source text highlights. How did the anger happen? I want you to think about that for a second. It's the perfect hinge between the explosive event and the internal mechanics driving it. The participant is now stepping out of the blast zone and putting on the lab coat, so to speak. The text specifies that participants will learn the psychology of anger, specifically how it actually happened. It's basically a forensic investigation into their own minds, tracing the fuse all the way back from the explosion to the original spark.
And bringing us to our forward-looking conclusion, we have Section 3, the awareness. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is the stark juxtaposition it creates, based directly on the module's description. Over on the left side, we have the problem, the raw, chaotic event of exploding into anger, and those tangled mechanics of how it happened. But then on the right side, we have the curriculum's ultimate goal, a stronger sense of awareness. It beautifully shows the transformational arc of the text. You take the volatile, unpredictable elements on the left, process them through the module, and you yield the stable, regulated outcome on the right.
And we absolutely cannot skip over this crucial phrase at the very end of the source text, all these emotions. Notice that it's plural. The text doesn't just say, create a stronger sense of awareness of anger. It explicitly says all these emotions. This is a profound psychological acknowledgement that anger is rarely a solo act. It's a complex web. It's often a secondary emotion that masks fear, sadness, or frustration. The module actually requires participants to develop an awareness of the entire emotional ecosystem that surrounds that initial explosion.
So, let's bring it all together and summarize the precise path this curriculum takes, exactly as dictated by the text. First, you look at the raw impact of those emotional explosives. Next, you'll learn the clinical psychology behind the anger. Then you undergo a forensic examination to understand exactly how that specific anger happened. And finally, you synthesize all of that data to create a much stronger, broader sense of awareness. It's a complete, perfectly structured curve from chaotic action right down to deep, regulated reflection.
Which leaves us with this final thought, based on the module's ultimate goal. If you were to walk through these steps, how will a stronger sense of awareness change the impact of your explosive emotions? Because once you really understand the anatomy of the explosion, the blast radius tends to shrink. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this breakdown has empowered you to look a little closer at the psychology of your own reactions.